Jeff, Jim, and Carmela, part number 12. Jeff gave Mehmet a time to come back to the club to pick them up. Jeff opened the door for Carmela, and as she with class exited the taxi, Jeff's side of her started what he knew she could do, robbing Jeff of his know-it-all, or as he was calling it, the Samson and Delilah effect. Jeff knew all eyes would be on Carmela when they walked into the expensive club. The place was full of good-looking people, especially the female employees. Jeff remembered telling one of his friends that operated a restaurant in Atlanta, "If you want to assure the success of your business, hire the best-looking people you can find. It will have two guaranteed effects. It will attract the men to your restaurant, and for the same reason, it will attract the women because they know that is where the men will go. Do otherwise, and your business will never take off." Jeff and Carmela walked into the club, and the maitre d' came up to them smiling from ear to ear. "Good evening, Mr. Jeff. Glad to have you with us this evening. I have a very special table for you." Corey, the maitre d', was not one to mince words, and in this part of the world and setting, Corey looked at Carmela and made a whistling sound as he said, "I believe, Mr. Jeff, you are a lucky man. Where did you find this beautiful creature?" Carmela smiled at Corey and thanked him for the compliment. Corey was not the maitre d's real name, but some of the Turks used Western names because that was primarily the biggest part of their businesses. The number one stop for foreign visitors in Turkey was Istanbul. One of the members of the Turkish folk band recognized Jeff and whispered to the other band members that a representative of World Records was in the house. This caused a little nervous fidgeting among the band members. Jeff was beginning to recognize some of the people in the club as he called on his memory to see if he had seen anyone before. He was looking for someone who he had seen in other parts of the world and was relieved there was none. The only recognizable face was one of the belly dancers. Two of the belly dancers were sitting at a table in the far corner of a stage area, waiting for their turn to perform. Jeff recognized one of the girls and knew instantly she was the girlfriend of a notorious gangster in Istanbul. Jeff doubted Vladimir would have any contact with her because of Omar, the smuggler. Jeff was sure Omar would know something about Vladimir. He was well known in the underworld as the most powerful gangster operating in the Mediterranean Sea area. Her boyfriend may have some valuable information because of the nature of his smuggling business. Jeff knew Omar ran one of the biggest smuggling operations in the Mediterranean. Jeff was sure Omar would have some information about Vladimir. The dancers were as good as the Turkish band who played for the girls as they clicked their castanets and danced in rhythm with the music. And in Turkey, I call them castanets, but I think most of those were made of brass. The dancers finished their performances, and the band joined the dancers at a table where they were taking a break. Jeff asked Carmela to excuse him for just a minute while he went over to the table where the band and dancers were sitting. Jeff said he was extremely impressed with the performance and wondered if they would contact World Recordings in New York for contract talks. Jeff said he would tell the producers he had recommended to the group that they should talk to them about a contract. The dancer, who was Omar's girlfriend, appeared happy that the musicians had landed a recording contract. Jeff asked Margot, Omar's girlfriend, if he could have a word with her. Margot was her stage name, and that is what Jeff would call her, although he knew she was not Turkish, but Bulgarian, and had a Bulgarian name. Margot could tell Jeff wanted to speak to her in private, so she followed him over to where Carmela waited. Jeff had decided that Carmela would probably become more than just a friend, and he knew he could trust her. Jeff was positive Carmela did not have any connections that would compromise what Jeff was trying to do, so he decided to talk to Margot with Carmela sitting at the table. Jeff did not waste any time telling Margot what he wanted. He told Margot he knew Omar was her boyfriend, and it was important that he talk to him. He asked her if she could arrange it. Margot was surprised that Jeff knew about her and Omar. None of her friends knew she was dating Omar, the most famous gangster in the Mediterranean Sea area. Jeff decided to mention the name of Vladimir in front of Carmela and Margot. He said it in a whisper, but he told Margot he wanted to talk to Omar to see if he knew anything about a Soviet scientist named Vladimir that was probably a defector from Russia. Carmela looked surprised that Jeff was talking international stuff and not recordings. Margot did not have a clue to what he was talking about, but said she would mention the name Vladimir to Omar. She wanted to know how he could get in touch with Jeff. Jeff knew Omar could locate him if he really wanted to talk. Jeff told Margot to tell him about this conversation, and if he knew anything, he could contact me. Also, tell Omar I'm not looking for free information. I am prepared to pay. When Margot walked back to the table where her friend sat, Jeff looked at Carmela to see what her reaction would be to what she just heard. She was displaying a look of what was that all about. Jeff said he needed someone he could trust, and he told Carmela he knew he could trust her, so he shared the reason he was in Istanbul and his MI7 connections. Carmela knew during that taxi ride from the Istanbul airport she would, if given the chance, fall in love with Jeff. Carmela decided if Jeff was going to trust her, she could trust him. In addition, she decided to reveal what happened to her in Japan. Currently, she was not completely aware of Jeff's ability to know just about anything and everything. She did not know about Jeff's Delilah syndrome. Jeff had already determined Carmela was a mystery to him, and he was falling in love with her. The lure of excitement and the magic of Istanbul was working its aphrodisiac on both of them. Carmela had decided they should not have any doubts about each other, so she decided to tell Jeff all about her stay in Japan. She knew if they were going to fall in love and be with each other, he needed to know all about Japan. Carmela told Jeff they needed to find a place where they could be alone and talk. The Istanbul Hilton had several lounge chairs on the top observation deck. It was usually not that occupied at night, especially 1 o'clock in the morning, so Jeff suggested they go to the observation deck at the Hilton.